Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavams Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyanachana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namah Gorva Bhistam Sutpurakam Guraganarasisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Vedandimpanam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindam Vidam Ujwalam Maratanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Mande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Premnavi Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandavaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sareka Vairagya Vidyamburim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Banditam Shivaram Mareka Sharanam Nyasishvara Shridaram Vanshakapatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Goratabhishe Namah. We're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Madhya-lila, chapter 9. Lord Chaitanya travels to the holy places. I'll start with verse number 147. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Hari Lakshmi Raman Gopika Ramana Harite Nare Narayan. The Supreme Lord Krishna attracts the minds of the goddess of fortune. But Lord Narayan cannot attract the minds of the gopis. This proves the super excellence of Krishna. Now this is Mahaprabhu in a discussion in Sri Ranga with Venkatabhata, who is worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. So the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, attracts the mind of the goddess of fortune, but Lord Narayan cannot attract the minds of the gopis. This proves the super excellence of Krishna. Narayaner kakata Shri Krishna apane gopikare hasya karaite hoy Narayane. To say nothing of Lord Narayan personally, Lord Krishna himself appeared as Narayan just to play a joke on the gopis. Chaturbhuja Murti Dekaya Gopiganer Age Say Krishna Gopikara Nahi Anurage. Although Krishna assumed the four-armed form of Narayan, he could not attract the serious attention of the gopis in ecstatic love. Gopinam Pashupendra Nandana Jusho Bhavasya Kastam Kriti Vigyatam Chamate Duruha Paravi Sansharina Prakriyam Avish Kurvati Vaishnavim Apitanum Tasmin Bujar Jishnubir Yasam Hanta Chaturbir Adbhuta Ruchim Ragodaya Kunshati. Once Sri Krishna playfully manifested himself as Narayan with four victorious hands in a very beautiful form. When the gopis saw the exalted form, however, their ecstatic feelings were crippled. A learned scholar therefore cannot understand the gopis' ecstatic feelings, which are firmly fixed upon the original form of Sri Krishna as the son of Nanda Maharaj. The wonderful feelings of the gopis in ecstatic parama ras with Krishna constitute the greatest mystery in spiritual life. This is a verse spoken by Narad Muni in the Lalita Madhava Natika, a drama written by Srila Rupa Goswami. Etako he prabhutara garba chorna koriya, tare shuka dite kohe siddhanta varaya. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defeated the pride of Venkatabhata, but just to make him happy again, he spoke as follows. Dukana bhavya bhatta koilun parihas, shastra siddhanta shuna jate vaishnava vishwas. The Lord pacified Venkatabhata by saying, actually, what I have said is by way of jest. Now you can hear from me the conclusion of the Shastras in which every Vaishnava devotee has firm faith. So Mahaprabhu told Venkatabhata, he's defeating his conception that Lakshmi Narayan is supreme, that Krishna is an expansion from Narayan. He's defeating that. But at the same time, Mahaprabhu says, not to hurt his feelings, or just, he says, whatever I've spoken in the form of a humorous way. But now you can hear from the, but he wants to console him. You can, if that's the right word, he wants to. He wants to pacify Venkatabhata. That's the word. Krishna Narayana Jaiche Ekai Swarup Gopi Lakmi Bedan Nahi Hoy Ekarup. There's no difference between Krishna and Lord Narayan, for they are of the same form. Similarly, there is no difference between the gopis and the goddess of fortune, for they are also of the same form. Because we can understand, Narayan is an expansion of Krishna. The Lakshmis, goddesses of fortune, they are expansions of the gopis. Gopi Dware Lakmi Kore Krishna Sangasvad Ishwaratve Beda Manile Hoy Aparad. The goddess of fortune enjoys the association of Krishna through the gopis. One should not differentiate between the forms of the Lord, for such a conception is offensive. Eka Ishwara Bhaktera Jananurup Ekai Vigrahe Kore Nanakora Rup. There is no difference between the divine forms of the Lord. Different forms are manifested due to different attachments of different devotees. Actually, the Lord is one, but he appears in different forms just to satisfy his devotees. Manir Jata Vibhagena Nila Pitadi Bir Yuta Rupa Bedam Avapnoti Jnana Bedat Tatanshuta. When the jewel known as Vaidurya touches various other materials, it appears to be separated into different colors, and consequently its forms also appear different. Similarly, according to the meditational ecstasy of the devotee, the Lord, who is known as Achyuta, the infallible one, appears in different forms, although he is essentially one. Batakohe kahanami jiva pamar kahantumi se Krishna sakat Ishwar. Venkatabhata then said, I'm an ordinary fallen living entity, but you are Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Agare Ishwara Lila Kichwena Jani Tumije Kahase Satya Korimani. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are unfathomable, and I do not know anything about them. Whatever you say, I accept as the truth. More Purna Kripa Koila Lakmi Narayan Tara Kripai Painutomar Charana Darshan. I've been engaged in the service of Lakshmi Narayan, and it is due to their mercy that I have been able to see your lotus feet. Kripa Kore Kohile More Krishnara Mahima Jara Rupa Gunaishvarya Kehona Paisima. Out of your causeless mercy, you have told me of the glories of Lord Krishna. No one can reach the end of the opulence, qualities, and forms of the Lord. Ebi se janinu Krishna bhakti sarvopari kritartha korile more kohile kripa kori. I can now understand that devotional service unto Lord Krishna is the supreme form of worship. Out of your causeless mercy, you have made my life successful simply by explaining the facts. Eta boli bhatta padila prabhura charane kripakori prabhutari koila lingane. After saying this, Venkadabhatta fell down before the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, embraced him. Chaturmasya purna hoila bhatta agyalaya dakina chalila prabhu Sri Rangadekiya. When the period of Chaturmasya was completed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took permission to leave from Venkadabhatta, and after visiting Sri Ranga, he proceeded further towards southern India. Sangete Chalila Bhatta Se Jai Babane Tare Virai Dila Prabhu Aneka Jatane. Venkadabhatta did not want to return home, but also wanted to go with the Lord. It was with great endeavor that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade him farewell. Prabhora Viyoge Bhatta Hoila Chaitan E Ranga Lila Kore Sachira Nandan. When he did so, Venkadabhatta fell down unconscious. Such are the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Sachi at Sri Rangachetra. Rishaba Parvate Chali Aila Gorahari Narayana Dekila Taha Nati Stuti Kori. When the Lord arrived at Rishab Hill, he saw the temple of Lord Narayan and offered obeisances and various prayers. Paramananda Puri Tahan Rahe Chaturmas Shunima Prabhu Gela Puri Gosairapash. Paramananda Puri had stayed at Rishab Hill during the 4 months of the rainy season, and when Mahaprabhu heard this, he immediately went to see him. Puri Gosara Prabhu Koila Charana Bandhan Premi Puri Gosaitare Koila Alingan. Upon meeting Paramananda Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered him all respects, touching his lotus feet, and Paramananda Puri embraced the Lord in ecstasy. Din din premed dohe Krishna katarange se bipragare dohe rohe ek sange. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed with Paramananda Puri in the Brahman's house where he was residing. The two of them passed 3 days there discussing topics of Krishna. Puri Gosai Boleami Jab Purushottame Purushottama Deki Gode Jab Gangas Snane. Paramananda Puri informed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he was going to see Purushottama at Jagannath Puri. After seeing Lord Jagannath there, he would go to Bengal to bathe in the Ganges. Prabhu kohe tumi puna aisha nilachale ami setu banda hoite ashiba alpakale. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told him, please return to Jagannath Puri, for I will return there very soon from Rameshwara Setubanda. Tomara nikate rohe hena bancha hoy nilachale ashibe more hoya sadoy. It is my desire to stay with you, and therefore if you would return to Jagannath Puri, you would show great mercy to me. Etaboli taratai e agyalaya dakine chalila prabhu harashita haya. After talking in this way with Paramananda Puri, the Lord took his permission to leave and very pleased departed for southern India. Paramananda Puri tabe chalila nilachale Mahaprabhu chali chali aila se sale. Paramananda Puri Tabi Chalila Nila Chale Mahaprabhu Chali Chali Aila Sri Shaile. Thus, Paramananda Puri started for Jagannath Puri, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began walking towards Sri Shaila. Shiva Durga Rohitahan Brahmaneshwara Beshe Mahaprabhu Deke Dohara Hoila Ulase. In Sri Shaila, Lord Shiva and his wife Durga lived in the dress of Brahmins, and when they saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they became very pleased. Tindin Bikadila Korini Mantran Nibritte Bashi Gupta Bharta Kohe Duijan. Lord Shiva, dressed like a Brahmin, gave alms to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and invited him to spend 3 days in a solitary place. Sitting there together, they talked very confidentially. Tara Sange Mahaprabhu Kore Ishtagoshti Tara Agya Loya Aila Puri Kamakoshti. After talking with Lord Shiva, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his permission to leave and went to Kamakoshti Puri. Dakina Mathura Aisha Kamakoshti Hoite Tahan Deka Hoile Brahmana Sahite. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived at southern Mathura from Kamakoshti, he met a Brahmin. Se Viprama Prabhu ke Koilani Mantran Rama Bhakta Se Vipra Virakta Mahajan. The Brahmin who met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invited the Lord to his home. The Brahmin was a great devotee and an authority on Sri Ramachandra. He was always detached from material activities. Kritamalaya Snanakori Aila Taragare Bikaki Dibena Vipra Paknahi Kore. After bathing in the river Kritamala, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Brahmin's house to take lunch, but he saw that the food was unprepared because the Brahmin had not cooked it. So it says Mahaprabhu met a Brahmin when he was in southern Mathura, and the Brahmin invited Mahaprabhu to come to his house for lunch. This Brahmin was a great devotee and an authority on Lord Sri Ramachandra. He was always detached from material activities. Kritamalaya Snanakori Aila Taragare Bikaki Dibena Vipra Pakna Hikore. After bathing in the river Kritamala, Mahaprabhu went to the Brahmin's house to take lunch, but he saw that the food was unprepared because the Brahmin had not cooked it. Mahaprabhu Kohe Tare Shuna Mahashai Madhyana Hoila Kene Pak Nahi Hoi. Seeing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear sir, please tell me why you have not cooked. It is already noon." Viprakohe Prabhu Mora Aranye Basati Pakera Samagri Bane Na Mile Samprati. The Brahmin replied, "My dear Lord, we are living in the forest. For the time being, we cannot get all the ingredients for cooking. Banya Shakafala Mula Anibe Lakman Tabe Sita Koribena Pak Prayojan." When Lakshman brings all the vegetables, fruits, and roots from the forest, Sita will do the necessary cooking. So this Brahman's doing a form of meditation. He's not living in the forest, but in his meditation, he's saying, just as Lord Ramachandra lived in the forest, and then Lakshman had to go out into the forest and collect some some things that could be cooked, and Sita would cook everything. So the Brahmin says, "My dear Lord," speaking to Mahaprabhu, "we are living in the forest. For the time being, we cannot get all the ingredients for cooking. When Lakshman brings all the vegetables, fruits, and roots from the forest, Sita will do the necessary cooking." So he hadn't cooked a meal, and he's saying, so he's living, his meditation is on the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. Banya Shakafala Mula Anibe Lakman Tabe Sita Koribena Prayojan Tara Upasana Shuni Prabhu Tushta Hoila Ashte Vyaste Se Vipra Randana Korila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very satisfied to hear about the Brahman's method of worship. Finally, the Brahman hastily made arrangements for cooking. Prabhu Bhikka Koila Diner Tritiya Prahare Nirvina Se Vipra Upavasa Kore. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took his lunch at about 3 o'clock, but the Brahman, being very sorrowful, fasted. Prabhu Kohe Vipra Kohe Kora Upavas Kene Eta Dukkha Kene Korahal Hutash. While the Brahman was fasting, Mahaprabhu asked, "Why are you fasting? Why are you so unhappy? Why are you so worried?" Vipra Kohe Jibane Mora Nahi Prayojan Agni Jale Praveshya Chadiba Jivan. The Brahman replied, "I have no reason to live. I shall give up my life by entering either fire or water." Jaganmata Mahalakmi Shita Takurani Rakashe Sparshilatare Iha Kaneshuni. My dear Lord, Mother Sita is the mother of the universe and the supreme goddess of fortune. She has been touched by the demon Ravana, and I am troubled upon hearing this news. So he's very sad, and he feels he can't continue living knowing that Sita has been carried away by Ravana, and that this demon that she could be taken by this demon, and the Brahman can't bear this thought. So this is the Rama-lila, of course. E sharira daribare kabuna jujai, e duke jwala deha prana nahi jai. Due to my unhappiness, I cannot continue living. Although my body is burning, my life is not leaving. Prabhu kohe e bhavana nakuriya ar, pandita hoy haya kene nak koraha vichar. Mahaprabhu replied, "Please do not think this way any longer. You are a learned pandit, you're a scholar. Why don't you consider the case? Ishwara prayasi shita, Ishwara prayasi sita, Chidananda murti, prakrita indriyara, tare dekite nahi shakti." Mahaprabhu continues, Sita Devi, the dearmost wife of the Supreme Lord Ramachandra, certainly has a spiritual form full of bliss. No one can see her with material eyes, for no materialist has such power. Sparshibara karya achuka napai darshan, Sitara akrite maya korila rabana. To say nothing of touching Mother Sita, a person with material senses cannot even see her. When Ravana kidnapped her, he kidnapped only her material illusory form. So Ravana really didn't touch Sita or kidnap her, because an illusory form of Sita was created for him to kidnap. And the real Sita could not even be seen by him. So what he kidnapped is really a Maya Sita. Ravana asite sita antardana koila, Ravanera age maya sita pataila. See, there it mentions. Ravanera age maya sita pataila. As soon as Ravana arrived before Sita, she disappeared. Then, just to cheat Ravana, she sent an illusory material form. So Ravana, he did not kidnap the real form of Sita. He kidnapped Maya Sita. Maya Sita. Aprakrita vastu nahi prakrita gochar Veda Puran nete e kohe nirantar. Spiritual substance is never within the jurisdiction of the material conception. This is always the verdict of the Vedas and Puranas. Vishvas korahatumi amara bachane punarapi kubhavana nakoriyamane. Mahaprabhu then assured the Brahmin, have faith in my words and do not burden your mind any longer with this misconception. Mahaprabhu was telling the Brahmin, who was so saddened that Sita has been kidnapped by Ravana, that he tells him, you have to understand this, you're a scholar, that Ravana could not even see Sita or be near her. She's the supreme goddess of fortune, but an illusory form was created to delude Ravana. Prabhuravachane viprer hoila vishvas bojana korila hoila jivanera ash. Although the Brahmin was fasting, he had faith in the words of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and accepted food. In this way his life was saved. Tari ashvasiya Prabhu korila gaman Kritamalai Snana Kori Aila Durbasan. After thus assuring the Brahmin, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded further into southern India and finally arrived at Durvasana, where he bathed in the river Kritamala. Durvasane Raghunate Koila Darashan Mahendra Shaile Parsuramer Koila Bandhan. At Durvasana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the temple of Lord Ramachandra, and on the hill known as Mahendra Shaila, he saw Lord Parsuram. Setu Bande Ashe Koila Danush Tirte Snan Rameshwara Deki Tahan Korila Vishram. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to Setubanda, Rameshwara, where he took his bath at the place called Danush Tirtha. From there he visited the Rameshwara temple and then took rest. Vipra Sabaya Shune Taha Korma Puran Tara Madhye Aila Pativrata Upakyan. There among the Brahmins, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listened to the Kurma Purana, wherein it is mentioned the chaste woman's narration. This is about Sita Devi from the Kurma Puran. Pativrata Shiromani Janaka Nandini Jagatera Mata Sita Ramera Grihini. Srimati Sita Devi is the mother of the three worlds and the wife of Lord Ramachandra. Among chaste women, she is supreme, and she is the daughter of King Janaka. Ravana Dekiya Sita Loila Agnir Sharan Ravana Hoite Agni Koila Shitake Avaran. When Ravana came to kidnap Mother Sita and she saw him, she took shelter of the fire god Agni. The fire god covered the body of Mother Sita. In this way, she was protected from the hands of Ravana. Maya Sita Ravana Nila Shunila Akyane Shuni Mahaprabhu Hoila Anandita Mane. Upon hearing from the Kurma Purana how Ravana had kidnapped a false form of Mother Sita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very satisfied. So now he has confirmation what he told to the Ram Bhakta, who was very much upset that Ravana had touched Sita. Sita Loya Rakilena Parvati Rastane Maya Sita Diya Agni Banshila Ravane. The fire god Agni took away the real Sita and brought her to the place of Parvati, goddess Durga. An illusory form of Mother Sita was then delivered to Ravana, and in this way Ravana was cheated. So Ravana, he apparently kidnapped Sita, but even so he could not really touch her, even when others, she was very chaste, and she would not have anything to do with Ravana. So his associates said, well, why don't you just, take her by force? You can overcome her by force. And Ravana said, no, he was once cursed by a Brahmin that he could not, he violated some Brahman's wife, and the Brahmin cursed him that if he would do this, he would die in the future. So he could not, Ravana, although he had kidnapped Sita, he could not violate her. So, but here it also, but the Brahman is very disturbed. The devotee of Lord Ramachandra, he's very disturbed just thinking even that Ravana was able to kidnap Sita, which is so, he considers so terrible that he wants to die. But Mahaprabhu told him, you try to consider the facts. Ravana could never touch Sita because an illusory form of Sita was created just to confuse or delude Ravana. So, Raghunatha Jabe Ravane Marila Agni Parika Dite Jabe Sitare Anila. After Ravana was killed by Lord Ramachandra, Sita Devi was brought before the fire and tested. Tabe Maya Sita Agni Kore Antardan Satya Sita Anidila Rama Vidyaman. When the illusory Sita was brought before the fire by Lord Ramachandra, the fire god made the illusory form disappear and delivered the real Sita to Lord Ramachandra. So first Agni took Sita and protected her with Parvati and goddess Durga, and then later when Sita was brought back by Rama, then that Sita, false Sita, entered into the fire, and the real Sita came out. Okay, Tabe Maya Sita Agni Koryantardan Satya Sita Ani Dila Rama Vidyaman. When the illusory Sita was brought before the fire by Lord Ramachandra, the fire god made the illusory form disappear and delivered the real Sita to Lord Ramachandra. So the false illusory form of Sita that Ravana kidnapped is called Maya Sita, and when she came out of the fire, then that is Satya Sita, the real Sita. Shuniya Prabhur Anandita Hoilaman Ramadas Viprarakata Hoila Smaran. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this story, he was very pleased, and he remembered the words of Ramadas Vipra. Esab Siddhanta Shuni Prabhurananda Hoila Brahmanere Stane Magi Se Patranila. Indeed, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard these conclusive statements from the Kurma Purana, he felt great happiness. After asking the Brahman's permission, he took possession of the manuscript leaves of the Kurma Purana. Nutana Patra Lekaya Pushtake Deo Jaila Pratite Lagi Puratana Patra Magi Nila. Since the Kurma Purana was very old, the manuscript was also very old. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took possession of the original leaves, the Shastras written at that time on palm leaves, in order to have direct evidence. The text was copied onto new leaves in order that the Purana be replaced. Patraloya Punadakina Matura Aila Ramadas Viprese Patra Anidila. Mahaprabhu then returned to southern Madurai and delivered the original manuscript of the Kurma Purana to Ramadas Vipra, because this Purana confirmed that Sita was never, the real form of Sita was never kidnapped by was never kidnapped by Ravana. And when Ramachandra killed Ravana and brought her back, then that false form of Sita entered in the fire and the real form came out. So Mahaprabhu now had confirmation. They took it to that. Ramadas Vipra means the Brahman named Ramadas. Sita ya radito vanis chaya sitam ajijanat tam jahara dasha griva shitavani puram gata pariksha samaye vanim chaya sita viveshasa vani sitam samaniya tatpura stad aninayat. We're going to sing. You'll sing?
Maharaj, no sé si yo tengo que ir a llenar esos documentos.
Okay.
Creo que llevarás mis maletas.
All right. When he was petitioned, this is from the Kurma Purana. When he was petitioned by Mother Sita, the fire god Agni brought forth an illusory form of Sita and Ravana, who had 10 heads, kidnapped the false Sita. The original Sita then went to the abode of the fire god. When Lord Ramachandra tested the body of Sita, it was a false, illusory Sita that entered the fire. At that time, the fire god brought the original Sita from his abode and delivered her to Lord Ramachandra. Patrapaya Viprer Hoila Nanditaman Prabhura Charane Dori Koraye Krandan. Ramadas Vipra was very pleased to receive the original leaf manuscript of the Kurma Purana, and he immediately fell down before the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to cry. Viprako he tumi sakat Sri Raghunandana Sanyasera Beshe More Dila Darshan. After receiving the manuscript, the Brahman, being very pleased, said, "My Lord, you are Lord Ramachandra himself and have come in the dress of a sannyasi to give me your darshan. Mahaduka hoite more korila nishtar, aji more gari bikka kora angikar." My dear Lord, you have delivered me from a very unhappy condition. I request that you take your lunch at my place. Please accept this invitation. Mano duke balo bikka nadila se dine morabhagye punarapi pailundarshane. Due to my mental distress, I could not give you a very nice lunch the other day. Now, by good fortune, you have come again to my home. Eta bodhi se vipra suke pak koila Uttama prakare prabhuke bhikka korala. Saying this, The Brahmin very happily cooked food, and a first-class dinner was offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Se ratri tahan rohe tare kripa kori pandya deshi tamraparne gela gorahari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that night in the house of the Brahmin. Then, after showing him mercy, the Lord started toward the Tamarapani river in Pandya Desh. So tomorrow we'll continue. Now. Can you give me those kartals? The pink ones. Yeah. I think under it. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Hari Harai Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinatham Maranamohan. Giridhari Gopinatham Maranamohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Garadhara Sri Vasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Garadhara Sri Vasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jaoite Vignana Shabishta Puran. Jaoite Vignana Shabishta Puran. H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. Tasavar Bada Renu Mora Panchagras. Tasavar Bada Renu Mora Panchagras. Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sani Bas. Kader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sani Bas. Janame Janame More Abhilas. Janame Janame More Abhilas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manjai Aman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamudas. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sata Shishimai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sata Shishimai Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Sigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Kuladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Guna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari